Hi everyone, my name is Moses Sampal, part of Quantum Computing India. So today, we are kind of concluding Cryptography August because it's the last Saturday of August. And so when we started Cryptography August, the idea was to essentially arrive at a use case. So you start with the, so there's a baseline of, the underlying working knowledge, as you're going to call it, of whatever we know. So that kind of acted like the baseline, but we still wanted to go back and understand the roots. So we started with cryptography 101, then kind of went into implementation of classical algorithms. So KG did that. Then Dr. Urvashi was here. She talked about the kind of research that's happening at Raman Research Institute and what the Quest program is trying to achieve between India and Canada in terms of having satellites as the nodes, or at least one of the repeaters, right? So then, which if it happens, that'll be great, because like when everyone is trying to still do through like the road networks or like the fiber optic networks, right? Like ground level networks. So the last week we had Dr. Anandita. Now she heads quantum security research at QLabs. So with her, the discussion was more around quantum random number generators and QKD implementation that they have achieved, right? So that was pretty interesting because she showed a working model also, if you guys remember. So that's kind of like what we have been doing till now. So this today is very important, at least in terms of learning, because it's, when you're going in a direction, it's important to take a step back and understand what we have done till now, and then find the best next move, right? So next week we are meeting Dr. Anandita to talk about how QCI and QNU Labs, and then eventually RRI will also come in. So we form some kind of a consortium to work on research related things, and eventually a product that gets developed out of that will be coming out of this incubation as well. Okay, so, so with QCI team, that will happen either on Wednesday or Tuesday. So I'll keep you guys posted on that. So today, so in a learning process, right? So in a learning process, the spaced repetition is important, which is what is kind of happening. Every week we are going back and looking at the concepts that are related to that. So it becomes a regular thing, and especially for the quantum cryptography apprentice team, then it's like we meet on a daily basis. So that's even more knowledge accumulation kind of a session, because then Sunday, tomorrow, they'll be presenting continuous variable based QKD, right? So research wise also, it's going in the right direction. In terms of implementation and finding out a use case, we have few rough ideas as we discussed last week, but it'll be good to have that kind of a discussion with all of you once we have discussion with Dr. Anandita and Urvashi also probably. Okay, so today our agenda is very simple. So we will essentially pause and reflect, right? So we are pausing and then looking at what has been happening, and so we'll start with Archit. Archit will take us through so Archit, where's your note? I just saw it went away. So classical.
Yeah. It's the highlighted one.
Sorry?
It's the highlighted one, theory of security and cryptography.
Okay, great. So we start with basics of security, cryptography, limitations, quantum cryptography. Then Vaibhav will take us through simulation of BB84 protocol. The story behind BB84 and what Urvashi ma'am said is also very interesting. So almost all these things are on our YouTube channel. You guys can check it out at any point in time. And this is the session notes. This is again shared with you. So every session, so the Medium blog and the videos are put up over here. So it should be pretty easy for you guys. because the idea is to keep growing, right? So uh, we create knowledge, and then the next set of people, when they come in, they should start from where we left off, right? So that's very important, and that's where this kind of helps. So then 5:30 to 6 will be very interesting, because we'll essentially be talking about what's the current research landscape like, in terms of repeaters, long distance one, what are the different uh, techniques that different governments are taking, different startups can take potentially, right? But I seriously think that this is one area where the market and the government can work together, and that's where a community kind of an ecosystem becomes all the more important, right? Um, so that's on the research area, and Mahima will take us through that. So Mahima, I don't think there's anyone better than Mahima right now within our community to talk about these topics, right? And on solutions aspects, so we have like, it's very loosely classified, because no one has really found a product market fit, so to speak, in a startup lingo, right? So everyone is still on research mode. You would have like tried to sell it to like one company that has existing cryptographic systems, and then they really want to foolproof themselves, right, or quantum proof themselves. So then entropy of the service. So it's more like research, then finding a solution, and then finding a problem, and then finding a use case. So it's kind of going in cycles, and this is typical flow of any new technology that is getting adopted as well, right? So there's an adoption curve, so to speak. All right, so today's agenda is clear. So Achit will start, then Vaibhav simulating BB84 and showing it on his local system, and then Mahima taking us through research side use cases and what's happening on the market level. Yeah. All right. So Achit, you want to start? Meanwhile, if you guys have any questions, for like, we'll wait for like 5-10 seconds. If not, Achit can start. Yeah.
Okay, sure.
All right. Wait.
Shall I share my screen?
We'll share your screen, right? Yeah. Try.
Yes. Is it visible?
Yeah.
Okay. So, good morning, everyone, and
Good evening.
thank you for. Good evening, everyone. Sorry. Yeah. So, I'll basically take you like the things that have happened in the previous sessions. So I'll just try to like revise the things which have been happened, and I'll try to focus more on the like classical cryptographic part, and then I'll just introduce a bit like on the quantum cryptography part, and then Vabhu will take over from there on the BB82 protocol. So the first thing that like comes into our mind when we talk about ensuring any kind of like safe method or something, like everything comes under one umbrella, that is security. So security it means a lot in like very different areas, like even a society has a security guard who like ensures that no other intruder enters the society. So in the same way, like the security in the like the information world also is really important, because as everyone is going into the digital era, and say now a quantum era also, so security plays a major role. So like security has like different techniques, if I technically say, like on the data authentication, like protecting it from thefts, and like even every organization in the world requires a certain level of security for them to ensure that their research data or any kind of industrial level data are protected. So there are like various like types of security and components. Like these are few to be mentioned. So like the cybersecurity and investigation, the security architecture, the IT security strategy, the network authentication management, and so these are the kind of ways in which ways to secure a particular kind of particular data or a particular, say, a system itself. So there are more number of like the security components which come under. These are just to me just a few to be named. So the second thing that will come is something called as cryptology. So if we look into its definition, so cryptology is like uh, is a part of security, and it deals with how to create codes and how to make like different kinds of algorithms to make a data set secure, or to solve that, it is like to engineer an algorithm and to reverse engineer the same thing, so that if I am applying an algorithm which is securing my data, that is called as cryptography. And if I am reverse engineering that algorithm, so that like I can break the security and retrieve the data back, so that thing is called as cryptanalysis. So in this statement, like it is a superset of cryptography and cryptanalysis. So as in the as this line says, like cryptology refers to the study of codes which involve both writing and solving them. So uh, the same thing. So the graph actually shows us like how the bifurcation is made. So uh, we have the two, cryptography and cryptanalysis. So this was for the definition part. Now if we go into the types, so first I'll try to go through the cryptanalysis part. So uh, as previously defined, like what cryptanalysis means, like it means it means kind of making or making the things and breaking the like the cryptographic algorithms and systems also to to like kind of get to the data which has been secured. So this actually is kind of uh, like say a necessary part also in few places, but like it has been used for many unethical things in the real world, because many people doing fraud and all, so they try to break the encryption of the, say, a bank or a firm itself. So say recently we had the news in like stating that that Twitter accounts of many like famous celebrities have been hacked, and they are randomly putting up like tweets saying that I'll be donating money. So yes, these are kind of things that come under cryptanalysis. So the person who hacked the Twitter account of that person public person, so he actually was using some cryptanalysis like methods and all. So it is like kind of having, broadly speaking, three types. So like there are classical attacks. So classical attacks like so it has two. The classical attacks has two parts. So the brute force attacks or the analytical attacks. So these two attacks are kind of more into the mathematical domain, and they use mathematics and other kind of algorithms to actually like break the system which is encrypting the data and securing it. Then we have the social engineering, and then we have the implementation attacks. So let's look into the types of cryptanalysis in more deeper way. So as I was speaking about the classical attacks, so it can be divided into two parts: the mathematical analysis and the brute force analysis. So brute force analysis is like it runs their encryption algorithm like for all possible cases of keys. Like it is kind of doing the like trying to decode everything like in a really hard and raw manner, like putting in every combination of keys which it can and like going into all the permutations and combinations and trying to find out that particular like match. So it is kind of if you are familiar with like the Grover search algorithm, so like it is kind of mm, to just like mention it over here. So in like to explain Grover search algorithm, an example of the bulb array is taken. So say suppose we have an array of bulbs, and we and few of the and the bulb is bulbs are like connected with switches. So a particular configuration of the switch switches on the bulb, and if few of the switches are inverted, we are not knowing which of them. So uh, trying to find that particular combination which lights the bulb via a classical brute force method will take somewhere like 2 to the power n uh, terms and like combinations to form. So as the complexity increases, the number of iterations and the kind of work which goes on into like explaining the things, like also like finding the right key also increases. So in it, the like encryption algorithm is treated as a black box. So like we don't know of what is actually going on inside the encryption algorithm. So like in classical attacks, like it is treated as a black box, and no, like it is like near to no information is there for the algorithm which is like driving things, and then the attacks are made like using different like using mathematical principles and other things. So this was for classical attacks. Then comes a bit more say uh, a kind of social aspect to these attacks. So like the social engineering attacks are basically the attacks which depend upon the human factor. So say like if today like nowadays many kind of frauds are happening, and everything are happening like over call. Recently a news is in is becoming more and more famous, like the frauds happening on OLX. So what the frauders do is that they call you up, and then they pursue you to scan a QR code, and then from that scanned QR code they actually take the amount of money from your bank itself. So these are the kind of things in which the person doing the fraud, or the person doing any kind of harm to you, persuades you to give the information, the password that you have of your system, and then like tries to like change and then get the data that you have. So yeah, these are like as the 3 points says, it is something which depends on human factors. So yeah, and then tricking someone into revealing their password. So these are kind of stuffs that goes into these social engineering attacks under the cryptanalysis part. Now to the implementation attacks. So um, implementation attack, like it is more into like obtaining the secret key, like a site by using a side channel analysis, and it obtains the like say the physical access to the system itself. So say suppose uh, like a system is being secured by say a physical device, then the attacker who is trying to attack will go and directly get an access to that particular hardware itself, and then try to like crack the black box like crypto system algorithm going inside it. So these kind of attacks come into the implementation part. Like these kind of attacks are like more seen into more tried to be shown in movies and all, like where the actors and all like, but yeah, they are not exactly the same happening over there, but these are kind of attacks that come under the implementation attack. So that was like more for the cryptanalysis part. Now we come into the cryptography part, which is like the second branch of the cryptology. So if I like, so as cryptanalysis deals with um, reverse engineering the crypto system and the algorithms doing it. So cryptography is is the process which uses different steps and methods to secure the data from the kind of attacks that we talked before. So why do we need cryptography in general is that um, like because we want to protect the personal data if we talk at a personal level. So we want to protect the personal data and from anyone who is outside and who is unknown to us, and secure our personal data from them having an access to. So if they have an access, then they can actually uh, modify and then steal our own very personal information. But if we talk on a more industrial or a professional level, so there cryptography plays a huge role because the data which the major companies in the world and the major governments also in the world have, and they use for transferring different data, like say the accounts, a really secretive information is being transferred from a defense office in DRDO to the government of India. So you cannot without any security send the information because it is really secretive and it has to be kept secret. So there is a requirement to secure that thing so that it never goes public. So uh, that is where cryptography plays a major role in securing. So as the second point says is that crypto means secret or hiding. So secret or hidden. So as I say, so these methods encrypts the message and then saves it from the possible attacks. So yeah, the cryptography is the science of writing with the intention of keeping the data secret. So by implementing different methods, we try to keep it safe from the attacks. Now more talking into more of the classical cryptography part. So what does it actually mean? So as I so as the advancement in technologies were made, and as the with the research also going on parallelly. So right now today we are in a era where everyone is going towards a quantum like phase and era, and quantum computing and quantum physical principles are also being implemented in the cryptographic domains. So that is the reason we have a demarcation between the classical cryptography and a quantum cryptography, if we say. So classical cryptography covers all kinds of cryptographic methods and algorithms and functions which are localized and which are realizable via a classical computer and or a classical device. Uh, but the but quantum cryptography deals with the algorithms and the methods and processes which are more of realizable via a quantum computer. So if I talk about the classical cryptography, so it is divided into three major parts. So I say it is, the first is named as a symmetric key cryptography, the second is the asymmetric key cryptography, and the third is a hashing. So if we look into the types of the classical cryptography methods, so we have first the symmetric key cryptography. So if I try to briefly tell you about this symmetric key cryptography, is that the text or the data that we want to secure is sent to an like encryption algorithm, and a key is given to like which is a say a key which is in form of bits is given to is sent to the encryption algorithm, and the encryption algorithm then creates a ciphertext. So this is the cipher. This is the encrypted text uh, that we have made out of the encryption algorithm. And so then after the data or the plain text has been encoded and encrypted, so then it is transferred to the receiver. So the receiver, before using this data, tries to decrypt the encrypted data. So as the ciphertext is sent to him, so he first will use a decryption algorithm, and then use the same key to to decrypt the decrypt the ciphertext. So after the application of key in the decryption algorithm, when the ciphertext is decrypted, then the text is like retrieved back, and then it is like good for use. So why is it known as symmetric? Because the same key is used at the encryption step also and at the decryption step also. So like it do also have it ensures a level of security, but it also has a few drawbacks. So because there is only one key which is being used. So if the attacker who is trying to attack this crypto system, so he will be able to easily if he is able to easily retrieve the key at the sender's end, so he'll then be able to easily decrypt the ciphertext which is being sent. So this is one of the like major drawbacks related to security, but it is relatively faster than the other like encryption like method. So as the third point says that it is relatively faster than the asymmetric key cryptography. So if we look into asymmetric key cryptography, so what it does is it is the same process. Like the plain text is like sent to an encryption algorithm, but here a public key is like provided to the encryption algorithm, and like these are two different these are two keys which are being used in this algorithm. So it is known as an asymmetric um, key cryptography. So when the ciphertext is has been generated and when it is sent to the receiver, so at the receiver's end he uses a decryption algorithm and then fits in a private key to the decryption algorithm, which then decrypts the sent data, and then the text or the data can be easily processed. So why this is more like this is more say secure than the symmetric key cryptography, because there are more number of diversities in the key which is being used. So because even if the attacker is able to find the public key, he still has to get the access to the private key to actually decrypt the message and read the message or get access to it. But because of the complexities involved and the involvement of these two types of keys, so this algorithm like becomes a bit slower than the symmetric key cryptography, and like it is not feasible for the decryption of bulk messages, as it thus becomes really slow. So now if we come to the hashing concept, so this basically is like it takes the message of the sender, and then it converts it into a hash value, like which is like fixed by a hash function. So there is a hash function which like converts it into the plain text into a hash value, and then it is then sent to the receiver, and the like uh, So the different hashing processes happen in this this step. So as the sender sends the message into the hashing algorithm, so uh, here if we see that if the hashed message of both the, so a receiver also sends the same message into the hashed algorithm language. If the hashed message of both are same, then the receiver acknowledges that he has received the proper the text or the data or the data. So this was, I guess, for the classical cryptography part. So now, if I talk about the limitations that we get from this classical cryptography principle, is that it is more of like more vulnerable to many kind of attacks happening. So as I mentioned earlier also, so because as I mentioned earlier that even the big celebrities like Elon Musk and all these are not safe from attacks happening on their Twitter accounts and their Twitter account getting hacked. And when many famous YouTubers, whole YouTube channel also gets hacked few times. So these are kind of major drawbacks which come into picture. And if I talk about a more industrial and a professional level, so even though these the algorithms being used in the industry are more say complex and more secure, but with the advancement of technology and the say the introduction of many other technologies like quantum computing say itself, so breaking these kind of algorithms has been a bit more easier. Why it has become easier? Because with the introduction of quantum computing, so many algorithms have many algorithms have been developed which have been theoretically proven to break the classical encryption. So the basic principle on which all the encryption world works is on the like on the principle of factoring. So factoring and factorization, so multiplication of any two numbers is uh, easy in computational language, because we have a defined step how to do how to multiply two numbers. But breaking a particular number into its factors is a really tedious task for the classical computers to look into. So uh, because the current classical cryptographic system is all based on this very fundamental principle. And if this fundamental principle is only at threat, so all the classical cryptographic algorithms are at a threat straight away. So with the advent of quantum computing, Shor's algorithm, which is quite popular in quantum computing world. So with the development of Shor's algorithm, it was theoretically proven with that a proper quantum computer, which is able to perform the process, the factoring of a particular number can be done in an exponentially less time, and the factors to that number can be found out in a really less time. So uh, the Shor's algorithm actually takes into principle two major things. One is the quantum Fourier transform and the quantum phase estimation. So I will not go that deep into it today, but these are so it poses a threat, and there is where the limitations of the cryptographic algorithms come. So these all points discuss about the different vulnerabilities and possibilities and where this whole classical cryptographic structure might fail. So if I just try to introduce you to the quantum cryptography, so the quantum cryptography you uses the quantum mechanical properties like to perform the different cryptographic um, methods and all. So it uses principles like the Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, the no cloning theorem. Say because of the no cloning theorem in the quantum world, so we can talk about quantum money and all, so that it cannot be cloned, like no duplicates of the quantum money can be made. So these are the different advantages that we get out of by using like quantum cryptography. That it using the quantum cryptography, many quantum mechanical principles which form the base of this whole thing actually ensures more security of this particular thing. So the best known example of like this whole quantum cryptography thing and like security is like the quantum key distribution. So in this via a channel, a key is entangled and it is given to the to Alice and Bob, and then when the message is sent, so if there because the keys are entangled and when a message is sent, and if there is an eavesdropper in between, so if he tries to um, mm, like tries to observe the data in between. So the data then gets collapsed into one state, and then at the receiver's end, we get to know that okay, there is a person who is tampering the data, and the probability with which we will receive the photons at the end, because everything is happening using photons. So uh, there the probability actually decreases of receiving a certain amount of photon, the certain photons. So this is the way. So we use the principles of light polarization to actually encrypt the data. So basically four kinds of polarizations are used. So vertical, horizontal, and plus 45 and minus 45 degree diagonally polarized lights. So using various optical methods and all these kind of like quantum key distribution principles are realized. And based on these principles, we have various other like methods also, like BB84, which Vapor will cover after this. And to if I just to keep you guys give just a brief about it. So like in the same domain, because these all come under a discrete variable domain. So now research and development is moving on in the domain of the continuous variable domain, where which is being analyzed, like how much secure is it, or will it provide more security. So yeah, this was it from my side, and now I guess Baba will take it.